Today's guest is Scott Wozniak, who is the CEO of Swoz Consulting, a firm that helps leaders build legendary lives and legendary brands. He lives with his wife and 4 children in Atlanta, Georgia. In addition to speaking and consulting on multiple continents each year, he keeps pushing his boundaries lately by doing extreme sports, writing music, and even founding a video game company. So, Scott, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Kicking off a new year and planning and dreaming and just kind of trying to figure out what to focus on this year. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I guess a timely thing then to appear on something like this. So I'm glad that
I'll
that's the case.
I'll take it, man. Some free coaching in the mix here.
Absolutely. Perfect. So then why don't you just contextualize that container by just giving us some background on, who are you, how you got to doing what you're doing? Floor is yours for that.
Sure. So I've got a consulting firm, right? Swoz Consulting. We help people build legendary companies. And so the kind of primary thing we're focusing on, that's kind of our clients just keep asking for more and more on is how to build what we call a customer experience engine. Like what are the set of systems? We have this fun little engine diagram that walks you through how do the greats do it. And so my journey, I actually have been inside and been a senior leader at some of the big organizations that have done this phenomenally well. So most notably Chick-fil-A headquarters. They're just in terms of customer experience, they're kind of a top tier inability to kind of do that systematically at tons of locations again and again. And so I was one of their leaders, got to build their strategic planning and upgrade their systems. And I had a really unique job. Half my job was travel the world, learn what the best do. And the other half was come back and actually lead some sort of change plan. So it changed up every year what I was focusing on and just kind of helping build their engine, so to speak. So I did that for a while. That led all these other companies I was working with started asking me to do more stuff with them, and eventually felt like it was supposed to take a leap out of the sweet little comfort zone of working for Chick-fil-A. And the first client to hire me back when I left to launch my own firm was Chick-fil-A. So I keep working with them as a vendor now, but yeah, helping people build these engines. So after a long time of doing this, we figured out here's the set of systems, here's the things we do. And so really learning to kind of help walk people through that process. So it's everything from a training or a coaching to like, we'll do a deep dive into a company and assess how you're doing and give you kind of an upgrade plan at the end of that. So sometimes people just bring us on for 2 to 3 years as a partner to say, hey, help me actually build all this and kind of be fractional team members and help them kind of grow their engine. So it's super fun. We're based out of Atlanta, but we work, I was going to say all over the country, but really around the world. We're at lots of fun places. So the team's growing, things are really taking off. It's been a fun ride, but yeah, so that's the context for like, man, I've got a team and we help organizations upgrade, most notably around their customer experience. Now we've got kind of an employee engine. How do you get highly engaged employees? And we've got innovation programs and all sorts of stuff that we do as well. But yeah, well, I'll just say kind of to you heard me mention this earlier, to get into it a little bit. Trying to focus is probably the biggest challenge I've got right now. But what got me here is a lot of, I'm really good at idea creation, right? Like, oh, we could do this. And what about this? And remember, I spent decades, like my job was to learn, go inside and figure that out and figure that out and figure that out. So I have this deep bench of all this stuff I've learned from a wide variety of organizations. And I keep trying to come up with new. And I think the challenge, I mean, just met with my team this morning. We're talking through kind of this year's plan. It's early in the year. We're all kind of figuring out what our goals are. And I have too many ideas as usual, right? That's like, this is the challenge. Great, cool. What are we not going to do in order to do that? I hate that question. Like, man, can we just do it all, right? Do we have to say no? So unfortunately, I think I do have to say no to some of this stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. It's like, okay, cool, giant opportunities. What am I going to focus on? So that's my team. And to give a couple more context, we got a book coming out this year. Be launching, looks like July. We're in the kind of literally in the middle of finalizing the publication schedule here with the publisher. So July, that book will come out. We've got new online programs we're doing. I just kicked off a new podcast. I'm just dabbling in this world myself and trying to figure this thing out. And so I've already got a pile of new things that are in the works. And and that doesn't include the page of ideas I just came up with. So yeah, that's the blessing / curse that I'm wrestling with right now. I was like, okay, cool, exciting things are going. The company's booming, but I got to focus somewhere, and I have some ideas, but it's just always painful for me to get there. So that's kind of where I'm at context wise. Got a growing company and a growing team and cool stuff. But yeah, we've got, just for context, we've got about 18 folks on staff right now, including me. So me and 17 others. And so, so we're not, man, when I launched, it was me, like just cross my fingers, throw some prayers out, and hopefully see if clients will call me. It's a little bit crazy. I had one big opportunity that was like, hey, if you leave Chick-fil-A, we want to hire you for this. And at first I told them no. And then long story short, felt like, okay, no, I'm actually supposed to go back and give this a shot. So I had one big client and that's it. I had no marketing plan, no strategy for it. Like, well, that'll cover our bare bones. I could survive. It would be a big paid drop, but we could survive. And then let's see if we can build anything. So we've way outgrown that. But yeah, it was not this slow, calculated. I had a grand exit plan, worked it up, got my marketing, and then launched. It was quite the opposite. Like, surprise. I think I was planning on retiring at Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A folks were expecting me to retire. Everything was going great. And it was just like, this opportunity is a whole other story, but basically is a combination of the strategy and unique opportunity, a mentor encouraging me. And so I happen to be a Christian, some prayer involved in that really felt God gave me a couple of signals that nudged me, and it all kind of overlapped to say, no one thing was giant itself, but it all came together to say, but so, I mean, it was like October, and then by December I was out. So gave him about 8 weeks notice and left. So anyway, so yes. So it's been a journey of figuring it out. And we went from the early days. So in the early days, man, it was like me figuring this out, right? And so I gosh, I probably ought to go pull this old document up. I just suddenly remembered what I used to send people. I've gotten better and I still have progress to go. But I remember like, hey, I emailed a bunch of my buddies that worked in other organizations, the contacts I'd done stuff with. And I think I sent them something like 20, maybe 25 separate things I could work on for them. Like this Word doc, single spaced. Each one was like a bullet, like a header, and then all the details, and then the header. And I mean, just pages and pages of, here's all the stuff I think I could do. And somebody would say, I do this, and somebody would say, I do that, and random stuff. And so I did not start with focus. It was like, do whatever I can to get as much business as I can, just get me off the ground. But we've definitely left behind the need for me to scramble and grab. And now I'm running out of time. I don't have a problem finding business. I have a problem finding time to keep up with all the business. And so increasingly the shift, so it's been like a life shift for me, is trying to figure this out. Because honestly, if I think about it, the way I got here was by being willing to say, yes, I'll do crazy stuff. I'll try something new. Right. And so like, that is no longer the key for me growing, is if I keep saying, yes, I'll try that. Yes, I'll try that. I actually already have caused some frustration in the team, and like, diluted efforts or distracted teams. So I'm just trying to figure that out. In fact, it's funny, the meeting I had this morning, I ended up giving over one of the projects I've led myself, and like I said, okay, I'm not the leader of this anymore. You are. Ask me questions if you want, let me know. But I'm the bottleneck. The project's slowing down and not going well because everyone's waiting on me to take the next step, and I got too many things I'm already fiddling with. So yeah, focus and trying to figure out how to manage that. That's like right where I'm in the middle of, is this booming cool stuff, and I keep coming up with cool ideas, and somehow I haven't figured out how to come up with more hours to match all those cool ideas. So the time is fixed and the ideas list keeps growing. So yeah, that's where I'm at today, man. That's what's going on.
Got it. Well, not surprisingly, right? There was a lot of stuff coming out in just one question. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you're walking your own
Warning,
talk in that instance, right?
warning. Ideas and words are not a problem.
Got it. Okay. So I would say the through line for me, right? Like listening to
Yeah.
all of that is this, is that sentiment of like what got you here is not going to be what's going to get you there. Right.
Yes.
Like what got
That's
me the success to be here and to succeed at all these crazy projects is the very quality that is now the bottleneck in my business, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that the irony of that is rich to me, right?
Okay, perfect. So if that resonates, then what do you feel internally is a conflict in you letting go of that?
Man, that's the great question. Yeah, so I'm playing back in my mind when I have those tensions. It's not trusting people. That one's not. I mean, I've seen that in some of my own client and coaching work, right? Where the challenge is they feel like nobody else can do it with excellence. I mean, I've got really good folks on my team, rock stars, and they often do better job than I do. So that is not a shocker or an offensive to me. Um, I think I feel like I'll be missing out on some of the fun if I don't get to be a part of it. Because all the stuff that I do, I've got to a point in my life where, I mean, it kind of sounds crazy to me to say this, Drasco, but like I pretty much everything I do is the stuff I would want to do. Like don't tell my clients, right? But I do a lot of this for free for the fun of it. I love this stuff, and so like I think, yeah, I don't think it's because I'm scared. I don't, or like you don't, angry about the people. I want them to get involved. The problem is more, I don't want to back out because I feel like I will now miss out on some of the fun of that. They're going to go plan it and have the party and do the work, right? And the party, the air quotes there, like, it might be a strategy project, but for me, like, dude, we're going to get together and they're going to whiteboard with the client. And like, that's a party day for me. But I can't do everything. And so, yeah, that's probably it. Again, I'm rambling a little bit around it because I don't think I've ever named it like this before, but I feel like I'll miss out on fun if I don't get to be involved. And so I kind of want to keep inviting myself into the group, right?
Okay, so there's an element of like FOMO, right? Like the fear of
Yes,
missing out of like I'm gonna
totally.
miss out on the fun of the actual work, right? Because I find the work engaging.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. FOMO is the spot on, man. That's the challenge.
Okay. So then if you rewind that back, what's the actual fun part?
Good. So there's pieces and parts, but there's probably two things. One is the process, right? I like to actually be at the workshop or to help create the strategy, like the actual whiteboarding or documenting. I like teaching. I like the one-on-one coaching. I mean, a lot of this stuff, right? So I do like that, but there is another layer. I get a lot of fun out of the satisfaction of seeing the impact. That's part of why we get one of our values is being practical as a company. Is it premium, practical, personalized? Those are the three kind of main values what differentiates us. And the practical is because like, then if it doesn't turn into real valuable impact, like tactics, and here's how we did it, and it got actually better outcomes for my life, for my company, then I feel like, well, what was the point? I don't want to hype people just to hype people. So okay, I say that because I do know that I get a lot of satisfaction out of seeing the impact. And so it's both, right? Now, here's why I mentioned this, because we did an event for one of our clients. This was end of November, maybe early December. So just maybe less than 2 months ago, because we're recording this in January. So it was a leadership conference. We hosted their whole company and we put on the whole event. And I was the kickoff speaker, but I was not the next day and a half, I was not a speaker at all. I did the first morning, got it all going, and then my team took over and did the rest. I got to tell you, this is where your question surfacing this. So, on some part of me was like, oh man, I love speaking. Like I could have done that session. I could have. But on the other hand, I found a kind of almost surprising level of satisfaction seeing my team crush it and like seeing the light bulb moments. And I wasn't saying anything, right? I'm sitting in the back on the back table taking notes. And yeah, that was really interesting. That one of the fun parts I got to be a part of, even though I didn't do any of part of the process. Like I just got to see the client. So okay, so maybe I'm anticipating one of your questions. I can't resist the ideation, right? That's my brain. I wonder if I somehow got more visible experience of the impact on the clients, even if I wasn't there in the project, right? Like the team runs and does it without me. And then I somehow get to just even watch the final moments to kind of see the clients report out or see the results. I wonder if that could stir up some of the fun that I don't want to miss out on. But yeah, so that's it. That's the fun. I like the process and I like the impact. Those are the two things that are most deeply satisfying for me.
Got it. So the process being as like I get to be in my zone of genius of the ideation, and I'm the one that's, in it with all those things.
Yeah.
And then also seeing the impact of where those ideas are going to lead. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So that is great and it makes sense. And then you're also saying, but I also get satisfaction from seeing my team do the very thing that I'm also doing.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I do.
Okay. So what's the disconnect there? Because technically, by that definition, like you could get the same satisfaction and the same impact watching your people succeed
Mm-hmm.
as you do doing the thing yourself. So the where internally for you is the disconnect there.
Yeah, I don't have frustration. It's a good question. I don't have frustration on seeing them succeed without me. That I don't feel competitive or jealous in that regard. Man, if I could be really like just honest with myself, I think I struggle to accept that I have limits. Like I keep thinking, why can't I do it all? Why can't I just be a part of it all? It's not that I want to keep them out of it or get more than them or anything. I don't feel like it's a zero sum. I'm pretty good. I've done a lot of head work and heart work on abundance mentality versus scarcity mentality. Had some great mentors, including my parents, really good at this and others. So that's been something that I kind of intuitively had and then really intentionally built into as well. So like their success does not limit my success, but I don't like that I can't do all the things I want to do, all of them. I
Got
think
it.
I'm
So there's some,
wrestling with my own limits. Yeah.
okay. So then I struggle with accepting that I have limits.
Yeah.
So that now changes the whole perspective because FOMO is then the symptom of that. Like me
Yes, that's right.
accepting that I have limits on the outside looks like, well, no, I'm just having fun, like going in and putting my finger on everything.
Yeah.
But internally, like that's not an action that's created out of inspiration. That's actually an action created out of desperation. Like I'm
Wow.
desperate to prove and not have any evidence that I actually can't do it all.
Yeah. And I think it's less proving to other people. Because I like what you're saying. I'm playing with the nuances, right? I don't think it's proved to other people as much as I don't want to
Yeah, it's
like
to yourself.
yeah, to myself, to the scenario. Like I almost more like greed for having all the great experiences. And it's more experiential greed, I would say, than financial greed. I mean, sure, I'd like more money, but like that's actually never really been a major motivation of mine. But man, experiential greed. I've never phrased it that way before, but sadly, I have to say that resonates. Like, dang it, I want all the experiences. I want it all. Like the idea that I would have to draw a boundary line and not get all the cool stuff experientially, I'd miss out on that. That part is like, no, I'm going to figure out a way. And again, if we go back to where we started, to a certain extent, I have had a lot of life success by not accepting limits that everyone else around me said you should, right? Like you can't do that. You can't write a book while doing that career, while having kids, what international travel and do all this stuff. Like, well, how are you going to pull that off? And I've often just said, like, I'm just going to make it work. I don't know. I'll figure it out. And it was like this rejection of don't put limits on me. I got this thing, man. I can do it all.
So then I'm just gonna just for
Yeah.
the sake of time, because I know you have a hard stop, so I might
Yeah.
interject a little bit
Good.
more than I normally would.
I like it.
because a lot of what you're saying right now is also like there's a rebel energy to that
Ooh,
quality, right? Because it's not
yeah,
like if I'm hearing just experiential greed, like I think hedonism, like I just want all of the fun all of the time, and I'm like, okay, cool, like if that's motivating, fine. But what you're describing here is like people are telling you no, and you're kind of like in your, well-mannered, jovial way, giving the finger and being like, no, I'm going to show you like that I can,
yeah,
right? And historically, it's been extremely reinforced, meaning
yeah,
all of your success came from that rebel quality. All of your success came from being able to do it all. And again, now it's distorting into a weakness because your business is at a maturity level where that just physically is not possible anymore.
yeah,
But
yeah.
what lands for you there?
No, but pretty much all that. I'm very socially oriented. I don't feel angst or like I got to beat the other people. But yeah, I do feel keenly that I have not fit in the norms, not followed the standard path, not taken the right. Like I've taken pride in the fact that I've gone off the beaten path, and so that kind of polite rebel quality. That's really well said. Like, jovial rebel. That's a great, I'm trying to figure out the word you used. Yeah. Cause I think I'm fun, right? I do like having fun. I have a great time. But the jovial rebel who's like, yeah, listen, I'm not angry about it. I'm not a bitter rebel. But yeah, I'm not walking on your path, man. I'm not, like, why would I get in line and slow pace with everybody else? Like, I'll figure out my way around this thing. And so that has been rewarded repeatedly. And that's a very different thing to do when you're solo than it is when you lead a team of 17, 18 people who are, making decisions based on where we direct them. And then I, keep kind of wanting to run off the path or throw more on the piles. And here's what I will say. This part I think I don't anticipate this well, but my team will occasionally say to me, "Hey, you hit our limits. Like we don't have the time or energy or resources to do that. What you just said, unless you want me to stop other things." And I'm not a jerk about it. I mean, maybe the jovial rebel here. Like I'm not like suck it up and get her done, son. I don't care, right? I'm like, I'm so sorry. Okay, limits. There are real limits. I don't want to overdraw or burn out my people. I've been with leaders who've done that to me and the team, and I'm like, no, I'll never do that to you. But what I realize is I don't anticipate them. I'm continually like, what? Okay, you have a limit. I forgot that there were limits in the picture. For better and for worse, I plan as if there are no limits, and then I try to back it in, squeeze as much of that into reality as I can. And so I got to figure this out around like, okay, how do I? Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to solve this by then putting my head down and becoming like conventional Joe who just kind of does what everyone else is doing. We're winning in large part because we're not like all the other folks. We're talking at a level about things that, I mean, literally, as far as we know, nobody else. I've actually looked. Nobody else has a tactical system like we do, for tactical how to build customer experience engine stuff. There's cool concepts, and there are people who have individual like software tools
So
that
again, I'm
work.
just gonna
But
pause you
like,
right there, right? Because I can
yeah,
see where the
that
tangent is going
balance.
in your mind, right? Again,
Good,
just for
good.
for the sake of time. So like what I'm hearing from that is, like right now, this quality that got me here where I'm at has expanded to not be useful anymore. So what's in front of me then is really like what's needed is a leadership shift, right?
Hmm.
Because it's abundantly clear that like you love people, you support people, and like you're very inclusive and you want to see everybody win, which I think is a beautiful quality, and I think reflective of the inner work you said you've done about the abundance and all of the things. I think what's showing up for you right now is like, what is my role? What do I have to evolve into to really be the kind of leader that
Hmm.
is needed for this level of the business?
That's good.
Right? So
Yeah.
if that lands for you, like who or what would you be if you didn't have these FOMO limits, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. So the word that comes to mind is that because I'm thinking, what does my team need? What does my company need right now? Right. And what I'll say a quick comment and then I'll answer. I love the frame of that, by the way, Drasko, because it's less about, hey, what's most fun for me, and like, and shift, how do I best serve them and set them up for success? And figuring that out, I think is that's beautiful. There's real wisdom inside that, the kind of the frame behind the question. So well done. Yeah, I think my team needs someone who is maybe less of a driver making things happen and more of a cultivator who's kind of think like almost like a gardener, right? Setting up the conditions for them to thrive and succeed. Yeah, probably. Okay, so play with the metaphors. The gardener kind of sparked maybe what I've been as a hunter, right? Like I've got these skills. I can go out and find opportunities and bring home the food to the organization because I go make it happen. But we've grown to the point where even if I go hunt a bunch, I'm still a minority. Like there's more things happening that aren't about me than there are about, me directly solving it. So shifting to, instead of spending all my effort trying to like grab a hunting party and I'm driving that hunting party to go come hunt with me. It's like the gardener cultivating them and letting them thrive, letting them figure out their stuff. And that, because I mentioned I've got rock stars. Like there's some truly remarkable folks on the team. And yeah, I probably am holding back some of their capacity because I keep trying to chase my own ideas. Not that I guess I have to kill every good idea, but the metaphor, right? This is resonating with me. With the gardener cultivator metaphor, I can still take the ideas, but now I'm like planning them in the context of the team and say, what do you want to do with my ideas, rather than trying to make it happen. Because you heard me say earlier, right? Some of my success has been, listen, I don't know how, I'm just going to make it work. But I don't want to force other people to do stuff that isn't help them thrive or good for their timing. So the gardener who plants seeds and see what sprouts, that a little more of a gentle, patient process. That's probably what they need.
So I understand that completely, and that actually makes a lot of sense given the dynamic we just like unpacked.
Yeah.
Now the question becomes, is that a role that you are supremely excited accepting?
Yes and no. I do. So our company develops leaders and companies, right? So I like developing people. I like seeing them grow. And so I actually take real joy and satisfaction in kind of setting a team up for success and thriving, right? So in that regard, yes, I think I like helping set an environment and giving them space to grow. The hesitation is I don't know what I will do with all the energy and ideas, because I still have occasionally like, oh, that's cool. I want to go hunt that, chase that thing down, check that thing out. That's awesome. I got to go get that. So maybe if I carve out a little space and it's like, listen, this 20% is my playground where I get to run off trail and make new things happen.
So this is the part where, to me, from the outside looking in, again, obviously it's the first time we've met, so I'm going off of what's present here.
Sure.
This is the part where, have you ever read the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
I don't think so.
Aware of that book? Okay. So
No.
anyway, I'll just quickly explain the parts that are relevant here. So he talks about an upper limit problem, which is essentially what you're experiencing right now. So it's that inevitable like limit, that glass ceiling that we all get to at certain points in our own life and in our business life, where the patterns of old now no longer serve us to get us to make the big leap into the next. And it's also the resistance point where the inertia of the old self always pulls us back. So, self-sabotage is a like typical example of the upper limit problem.
Yeah.
In addition to that, one of the ways that we overcome and go into that next level is, in your instance, what's relevant here is distinguishing and then making the hard choices to move from your zone of excellence to your zone of genius. So what I mean by this is, like, when I ask you, okay, are you really a cultivator or a gardener? And you're like, well, yes and no. Meaning there is a zone of excellence in that I like to see people thrive. I get satisfaction out of seeing the impact, right? That was one of your qualities. I enjoy that. I'm good at it. However, what really lights me up and that nobody can do the way that I can do it is the hunting, the ideating, the energy involved in that fast. Like there's not many people that can do that. From what I'm hearing, from just like what you're describing, that's really your zone of genius, or at least that's one quality of it. I think the big gap for you and the limiter in your business growth and what you've described is redefining what your zone of genius looks like in the maturation of your business as it is right now.
Yeah.
So what lands for you there?
Yeah, two things on that. The transition I've experienced, I never read the book, but that intuitively makes a ton of sense, that the zone of transition, like, hey, these old patterns don't serve me anymore. I've done that, I think, a few times on other issues. I have to say I haven't processed this one yet, but some of the other stuff. And so that resonates, and it's like, oh, so even though this is different in detail, it's not different in kind, right? Like, oh, this is another one of those kinds of transitions. It's just around this issue right now. So that was cool. I'll have to check that book out. The Big Leap, is that the name of that one?
The Big Leap, yeah.
Okay, I'll check that out. So yeah, then the second is like the interesting, the zone of genius is this kind of creative ideation, hunting to make it happen. Yeah, and I think so. Yes, I guess that's part of the issue. Is I'm afraid. Do I walk away from that? Because it is a really unique. Not like there aren't other people that can do it, but some people have a really good head and lots of training around math or something. Like all of us can do basic math, but this guy can do crazy stuff in his head. That's kind of my jam when it comes to ideation and strategy and coming up with stuff for the clients and business. So I say all that to be like, yeah, I don't want to lose that, but I don't want to disrupt the organization. So some of the solutions, I will say this, I've got a right-hand leader who I've been steadily elevating him more and more in the organization. Remember I said I was passing some things off. It's the guy I passed off to this morning. Said, hey, why don't you take this? And his name's Matt. Matt's phenomenal and he's a much more planful, systematic, he's great at the cultivating. And so I like it. I think it might be one of his zones of genius. Whereas, as you said, zone of excellence, I'm good at it, but not at the level he is. And he can do ideas. He gets what I'm talking about. He's creative, but I think he would probably acknowledge not quite at the level I'm at. And so this confirms that, having Matt maybe lead even more and more of that stuff and not have me set the plans because they're going to zigzag too much. But yeah, like I feel, I don't know, almost release or freedom, like, almost a burden off me. Like I can carve out some space and I don't have to give up this genius thing, to use your word, the zone of genius. So that's what stirs up in me. It's like, oh yeah, this is the kind of transition I'm talking about. And man, yeah, I would love it if I didn't have to give up this thing I love. I want to serve the organization. That would be primary. If it really harmed the organization, I had to like totally quit it. I would work hard to figure that out. But man, if there's a way I don't have to, and the organization still gets what it needs, that would be amazing.
So what do you think you'd be able to create, both from an organizational perspective and from yourself, if you could find that harmony and balance?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say there's already a long, remember, ideas are not my problem. I have a long list of cool content and programs I want to create, like epic retreat experiences and online programs and books and like that. There's literally a list that I have with notes in them on like, little outlines for this and plan for that. So there's a bunch of that kind of learning development experiences that I could create. And then there's just honestly, like sometimes maybe the space to a lot of my client work. So some of our client work is pretty straightforward. Put the content down, help them walk through a process. But 10-15% of our projects are like custom, push the boundaries. We've never done, no one in the world has ever built this thing before. Can you help us figure it out? And so, man, I could probably just also have more time where I just do that. because I just did that for a client this past week. I spent 2 days with them, and they're like, we want to build a whole new program, a whole new kind of thing in the industry, and it's sort of half this and half this, but nobody else has done it before. How do you do that? How do you merge these two very different things? And I was like, long story short, it's a combination of like an investment, like a PE private equity firm, and want to buy companies and develop them, combined with this like deep spiritual heart mind development, like individual discipleship program, combined with a business that buys businesses. Like, how do you mix those two? Like, I know people who've done this, I know people who've done that. No one's ever done both, at least that we can find. And so I say all that to say, oh, I was in like ideation sweet spot, man. So the insight here that your question stirred up is like, well, maybe some of it's in the company, a new content for us, but maybe some of it is just, I'll do it for our clients. And I don't have to come create whole new things every year for my company. Maybe I get to do that for our clients.
Absolutely. And I think you're starting to open up the doors to what's possible when you find the sweet spot. So just to kind of move into like closing this off and like this whole diagnosis. So you came in here really saying, okay, well, if I could only focus, then things would be great, right? Now, how would you describe the real problem that you have that we kind of uncovered today?
Yeah. So two layers. Internally, what that looks like is realizing that I'm in a transition season, and that it's not just I got to pick the next task. Right? Focus is very immediate. Like, which of these projects should I pick and which should I say no to? Right? Well, no. There's a broader, deeper thing going on where like a pattern of working that got me here can't be the dominant pattern. I just can't unleash unrestrained this like mix it all up and create new all the time. And so the acknowledging that's really what's going on is I'm trying to figure out a new pattern and focus. And within that, I don't have to give up this zone of genius. I just have to figure out where to apply it and where not to apply it. And like I don't have to not do it, but I can't assume that is the solution for every, well, I'll create a new thing. That's how we'll figure it out. So that's like that transition is really what's going on. And I think I need to, so to say it real, try to say it concisely, not my usual strength. I've got to figure out the new pattern of working that both allows me to do one of the things I'm good at, but sets my team up to be really thriving and cultivating. And there's some stability and planfulness that they probably need. And they need it part for me, but maybe in part for my co-leader as well. It doesn't have to be that I have to become just like him. So that's, I guess, the balance. Where am I? Where's Matt? What do I do? What do I have Matt do? And what's the right space there? And then underneath all of that, it's just kind of acknowledging limits, man. And I'll even go audacious, say, I don't just want to begrudgingly, give up and defeat to the limits, but like find some joy in the limits, find some meaning. I've done enough reading and thinking to like, I see that others have done that. I don't know that I have yet done that, but that's probably first is figure out the new pattern, and something about this pattern has got to like give myself space and even take some peace and satisfaction to like, okay.
Correct. So that's like, just again, from the outside looking in, right? Like the real problem isn't focus. It's actually redefining who I am as a leader inside my organization at the stage that it's in. Which is a completely different problem to solve than what do I focus on?
Which project?
What task do I take? Which is a very superficial version of that problem. This is an identity of me as the founder in this company, right? So I would say it's a real problem based off of what you're describing. And then one of the big head trash pieces that came out from that is like, what are my attachments to this rebel energy that I have to like be this kind of joyous rebel? And subsequently, what does it mean about me to not have limits?
Mm.
Right? Like, how is that distorting how I authentically show up as this new version of me? Like, that's kind of what I see as really the gap between what your business needs to go to the next level and like what you're describing it's at now.
Yeah, man, that's good. Yeah. I mean, if I'm not the rebel without limits, right? Then what am I, and what was it that I
Correct.
like about myself? Because I will say I probably have subconsciously, I don't know if I ever said it out loud or explicitly, but like part of why I'm proud of like why I like myself when I do, is like, wow, man, I don't have the same limits everyone else does. And like, no, I might actually have some of the
Correct.
same,
And like you might actually like that might actually be a true statement,
but that doesn't
but
mean
it inherently has its own limits. Like you are
exactly.
not
That doesn't mean I don't have
limitless.
any limits. I might just have slightly different limits.
Correct. And that's your zone of genius. Like you can handle a lot, right?
Yeah,
Which is part of the intensity that you operate with, which actually many people don't, which is what makes it unique to you,
for
right?
sure.
But now
That doesn't
the
mean
same
they're
quality
yeah,
is distorting and is creating the bottleneck in the business,
right,
right?
right.
So it's I've said it many times in my coaching and in this podcast, like our primary strengths oftentimes become our first distortions, right? So
Yeah,
it's the man with the hammer problem. I'm so good at using this hammer, so like everything becomes a nail, right?
100%.
And you just reach the threshold of that for your business and where you're at. And now it's showing up as business problems because it can't grow until you evolve and then
Yeah,
this new normal settles, right? So
that's it.
yeah. Anyway, I know you have a hard stop, which is why I'm kind
Sure.
of like forcing the summary here.
Good though.
Um, any closing things that you want to end
And
with?
I just appreciate this. Good processing. Your questions were not just generic responses. Like the insight in your questions was really cool. It's two or three things I don't think I've ever articulated to myself before. So man, I really enjoyed this. Thanks, Drasco.
You're very welcome. So thank you for bringing your joyous rebel to the
Thanks.
to the equation because it definitely made it fun for me as well. So
Awesome.
why don't I just close everything off and let everybody know where to find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Yeah. So probably the main thing is go to my personal website, www.scottwozniak.com. That's SCOTTWOZNIAK. So scottwozniak.com. It's got links to my newsletter and my blog and podcast and all that fun stuff that I'm trying out. If they want to know more about the company, there's a link there as well that they can kind of see all the company services we do. That's Swoz Consulting. So yeah, that's probably the main place. And I'm also on LinkedIn. I'll post on there as well. You can Scott Wozniak. You'll see me. It's pretty not a lot of Scott Wozniaks on LinkedIn, so pretty easy to find. So yeah, that's the main places.
Awesome. Love it. Well, as always, we'll include that in the show notes. But Scott, thank you very much for coming on. And then for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.